Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Redford, and this is the follow-up. Coming up on tonight's show, young people living on the street with no place to call home. Youth homelessness is on the rise here in Michigan. There are many factors behind this problem, including a lack of affordable housing. We're also seeing a lot more children living with struggling families who don't have a bed to sleep on. Tonight we have three guests in studio who are working on the front lines of this plight of homelessness, what they're doing to bring some hope to the situation, and how you can help. But first, we would like to hear from you to help drive the conversation here on the follow-up. You can do that via social media and Facebook. You can email us, you can dial into our follow-up hotline to voice your opinion or suggest future show topics. And if you'd like to watch any of our past shows this season, you can log on to deltapublicmedia.org. Our guest tonight, we'll start with Dan Streeter. He is the CEO, Rescue Ministries of Mid-Michigan, which encompasses the City Rescue Mission in Saginaw and the Good Samaritan Mission in Bay City. You've been on here before. Nice to see you back. Some new folks here. We have Christina Licht. She is the president of the Sleep in Heavenly Peace Saginaw chapter. Yes. And the vice president to your right, Dan Redford, vice president of the Sleep in Heavenly Peace Saginaw chapter. And yes, if you're inquiring, he's my son, my oldest son. I'm very proud of the work he's doing with this Saginaw organization. You'll hear from him and Christina in a moment. So get that out of the way. So let's start with Dan Streeter. I have you on this time of year prior to the holidays, talk about the need and the people that you serve at both those missions, Bay City and Saginaw. This time of year, we have a generous community. They want to see what the needs are and try to help. And we are going to touch on that, but we're going to touch more, I think, on this show is focus on sort of homelessness in Michigan and what the needs are there. So let's start with youth homelessness in the state. It's increasing. Why is that? Who are these people? It's not one size fits all.
Right. There are so many young people that are out there that are living vulnerable. And maybe to kick it off, to help give perspective, last year over 28,000 young people, kids that are 17 or younger, experienced homelessness independent of a guardian or parent. And so they're out there, 28,000 that were out there in the environment, and only about 1,000 of them, just a little over 1,000 of them, actually came into a shelter setting and stayed in a youth shelter. And that blows my mind. Over 27,000 kids that are out there roaming, making decisions, being exposed to things. And so back in 2018, Rescue Ministries started to see that vulnerability and realize what was really happening is cultivating the new wave of homelessness if we didn't start to do something about it. And so that's when we pursued getting a licensed youth shelter that opened up in 2021, and also now a transitional housing called the Dowd House, so kids that can stay with us longer that are 16 or 17 years old, and then also the launch of Labadee Lofts. But there's just so many kids out there vulnerable that need help.
And then you have this challenge of fighting against homelessness outside of the shelter wall. So explain that a little bit.
So as we're seeing what's happening within our communities, and it's really been ramping up a whole lot more, and it's really almost a nationwide epidemic of a lack of affordable housing. Even in the city of Saginaw, statistics show that about 70% of the housing stock are rental situations. But we've had people that are staying in our shelters, so on an average night there's 230 people, men, women, children, that are either staying in one of the two shelters. But their shelter stays have been elongated, where it used to be about an average of about 35 days. Now it's up to 66 days. And we're still getting positive exits. 60% of them are getting a positive exit into housing. But the problem is that there's so few houses that it's making it so much more difficult. And it's also because the cost of rentals have gone up so much.
Right. So I know you run the two missions, the one in Bay City and Saginaw, but you guys can't do it alone. I think you've got to build meaningful, impactful partnerships in the community. You've got many of those. One that is sort of new is called Higher Purpose. So let's talk about that before we get into these two over here.
So much of what the Lord is allowing us to do with the ministry in these days is to try to work more on the preventative side. And Poverty is so large within our area. 70% of those that are experiencing homelessness are doing so for the first time. So we knew that we needed to get out there and create partnerships and get more into the neighborhoods to work on blight removal, to work on what I'm calling street level case management, get the information out to where people and families are at, to be able to help engage with them and get the resources so they don't have to ever experience homelessness, and to start to do work right inside the neighborhoods where people are at. Our hope is that we could get engaged enough that maybe somebody doesn't have to ever experience homelessness. And so that's what launched us into renovating a warehouse on 2800 Holland Avenue called Higher Purpose, 11,000 square foot warehouse. And we're working with a couple nonprofits, 1 Week, 1 Street, and your guest tonight, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, coming together, working together in unison to be able to help meet families where they're at, stretch their dollars, and hopefully to help also work with them in a meaningful way.
Okay. Well, your turn, guys, Christina and Dan. Let's talk a little bit about Sleep in Heavenly Peace in cases where you have families that have homes, but they can't provide everything for their family, including their kids, and some of the kids don't even sleep in a bed. So I know the Sleep in Heavenly Peace program, it's nationwide. There's a handful of chapters here in mid-Michigan, but this will be the first one in Saginaw. So why Saginaw? Tell me about the organization.
Well, Dan talked earlier about the need in Saginaw being obvious. As we look around us, there's chapters in Caro, there's a chapter in Flushing, there's a chapter in Auburn that covers Bay City and Midland, and there's this chunk here in Saginaw that probably has a high, doesn't probably have, has a high need that is left unhelped right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely room for us to bring this chapter to Saginaw, and there have been a lot of people talking about it for a long time, a couple of years in fact, and it's been a work in progress in all of our minds for a while, and so to see it come to fruition is it's exciting for us, but it's exciting for the community.
So what's it take to launch a chapter? What's the run-up like? You've got to do some fundraising. You've got to get some training. I know the two of you went out to Utah a few weeks back to get a baptism of fire, how it's done. So walk us through the process and where you're at.
So Sleep in Heavenly Peace is a national organization, as we've talked about. It's a 501c3 nonprofit with a specific, simple but impactful purpose. No kid sleeps on the floor in our town is the motto. It's a really simple thing that people can get their hands around. And the organization started back in 2012 with a family, a guy by the name of Luke Mickelson, that wanted his kids to do something impactful for the holidays, and they built a bed out of 2x4s, things they got from Home Depot, and that kind of started it all. And fast forward to today, over 12 years later, there's now over 350 chapters, Saginaw being the 350th or somewhere around there. So it's a really high quality organization. It's built a lot of standards that we had to go through in order to bring a chapter, which probably made it difficult to start, even though you can think the need is so obvious. They do, in order to go through the accreditation process, you have to get a couple people to sign up to be on the leadership team. So Christina and I guess coming from two different angles, but both wanted to serve the community. We signed up and said, let's do this. So we're really excited and honored to be able to do it. We finally got accredited last month after we went out to Utah to go through the training. We were drinking from a fire hose. We're still kind of drinking from a fire hose because there's so many things to learn. I'll tell you that I am not great myself, and Christina, I think, is maybe in the same boat at building things. You can just ask my wife. But I say that joking, but also to let people know that you don't have to be handy. You don't have to feel that you need to be talented at bed making or even fixing stuff around the house. We have people involved already that can direct you. It's really just about caring and showing up.
Right. So what's happening this week? Part of the run-up to get ready, you're going to go through sort of a test build, right? So tell me what that's about and how that's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. On Friday, we have a team coming together to cut the lumber. So they'll prep everything, and then on Saturday that will be our first official bed build that will encompass our core leadership team that Dan alluded to. So ourselves included, and our volunteer manager, our build manager, warehouse manager. There's about 10 of us that will come together, and like Dan said, we're going to be running power tools and saws, which is not our that's probably not what we're most talented at, but there are people who are, and we're going to build beds. We're gonna do it. We're there.
So it's like this collaboration, and you can kind of enter into this conversation, because how do you identify families with kids that don't have beds? Through the mission, through social service agencies, through the Saginaw Community Action Center, is all of that? Do you have a whole database of just families with kids that are ready to go to say, hey, my kids need a bed?
Well, I would say, first of all, we know there's a critical need. When you take a look that in Saginaw County, especially in the city of Saginaw, that there's about 60% of people that are getting some form of public assistance. So there's so many families that are just getting by. And part of our concern is when we turn on the application portal, so it's all online, when we turn that on, we're concerned of how much of an inundation, because even the rumors have gotten out about it, and now people are connecting and trying to say, hey, we need a bed. So that's part of the reason why we got involved with it. Gene Pickelman and I started meeting 2 years ago, and we had the vision of wanting to do something impactful in the community, and Sleep in Heavenly Peace was on our radar, and it took a trek of 2 years of bringing all the right people together and God orchestrating all of this to now see we're on the threshold of now to be able to actually engage with people who are in need. And to me, that's what's amazing.
So what are you guys going to need from the community? I know you need fundraising. That's been getting off to a pretty good start. I don't know how much you need or where you're at right now. I assume you're going to need volunteers.
Absolutely.
I assume maybe you can do partnerships with some of the bigger businesses in town, maybe Home Depot, Lowe's, maybe they provide wood, or maybe people can donate wood and supplies. So what kind of things do you need? What can our viewers say, hey, I want to help, what can I do?
All the above.
All of that.
Okay,
Yes,
good,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think, again, it's important to know that as far as volunteering goes, you don't have to be skillful in bed building or woodworking, and it can be fun. You know, you can come as a family. It's a great organizational team building idea. We have a lot of teachers that are, ready to come build. We have Boy Scout, Girl Scout troops, so any age, any skill level. And then obviously there are a lot of materials that come into play when it comes to building a bed, and I think that's part of the reason there's a deficit of having beds. In the area, there's resources for food and clothing. Beds are expensive, and so is lumber, and all of the things that come with that. So definitely financial backing. Think of us, in all of the times of giving. Those are all things that would help us along and help get us going and get kids off the floor.
Yeah. So if I'm part of a church organization, a social service organization like a Rotary or Kiwanis, maybe I want to just bring some neighborhood friends. You're not taking applications yet, but you're going to. So when do you think that might happen? How do they find more information? How do they sign up, register? Are you doing social media? Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have a Facebook. You go to Facebook, look for Sleep in Heavenly Peace, Michigan-Saginaw. So that's our Facebook page, easy way to find us. You can find through there how to donate, get you to the website where you can donate to our chapter specifically under Sleep in Heavenly Peace. What's neat about, there's so many neat things about this. Again, I keep coming back to the concept of simplicity. When I first started to hear about this, and what compelled me to get involved was, I just became a new dad and thinking about my child not having a bed.
Sure. Yeah.
You
can get emotional.
It's
hard to believe. I mean,
it's a bigger problem than people think.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
And what we learned when we went out to Utah and we met with several different chapters, and some of them had been doing this for a while, they would say that it's kind of surprising to you sometimes who might not have a bed. It might be somebody on your street. I mean, yes, of course, we've got I think larger than average poverty in Saginaw and a lot of cities in Michigan. But it's not necessarily always about poverty. We have a lot of families have to make choices when times get hard, when inflation goes up, and you may be surprised that someone on your street might might be applying for a bed. We hear a lot of those stories. So it's a program that can make an impact, and you can get involved very easily. You can donate your time. You can involve your groups to volunteer. Some of those organizations you talked about, I mean, personally, I'm in Rotary, and I'm challenging our Rotary to get involved and back a build. We've talked to a lot of organizations about right now that the average cost of building a bed is $250. So you're heading into the holidays. If you want to maybe make a contribution that can impact somebody for $250, you can help us make a bed. We invite you to fund that and come build it if you want. We've talked to some organizations that are willing to fund for $5,000. You could fund 20 beds and bring your people along, build them. These are typically all going to be done on a Saturday within 3 to 4 hours at the facility at 2800 at Holland Avenue, which is also a great part of this concept. It gets people out into Saginaw, into the east side of the city, to help revitalize this area. So we're really encouraging people to just be part of this.
Right. The time you guys spent in Utah, you built some beds. You got some idea how it worked. And then I think you delivered some beds as well.
We did.
Tell us about that experience. Who you met? What was their condition like? What was the family's reaction when you arrive at their house, wherever they lived, and got a bed?
I think what was interesting about the delivery that we specifically did is what Dan just said. It was a little bit unexpected. We talk about poverty level, and the house that we went to was didn't necessarily fit that profile. There were a lot of children in the home, and I believe mom was single, and she had the resources again, and then the beds were the thing that she didn't have for all the kids. So it's so moving. If anything, if you can do a delivery, you can volunteer to do a delivery too, not just build the bed, but go with us and deliver the bed. I think that's probably the most impactful part of it, seeing the look on the children's faces. They were bouncing on the bed. So when we talk about the $250 in delivering a bed, that includes a mattress and a mattress cover, pillow, a set of sheets, and a comforter. So they get the whole thing. They kind of got excited about what may be on their comforter, and it's just, the look on their faces and how excited they are, and honestly how relieved mom was super impactful to me. Again, putting yourself in their shoes kind of really pulls your heartstrings, and it was I think that will be one of the biggest impactful experiences throughout this, delivering beds.
Is there a little bit of like an Amazon wish list, so if people can go on and say, hey, I'd like to donate money, or maybe I want to donate some towels, some linens, some sheets, some pillows? Is that something they can do in their sphere?
Yeah, we do have a Amazon wish list site, and we'll link that on our Facebook. And that's a good point, and something that National has also encouraged us to do is that Christina is mentioning the cost of the bed, and we, in-kind donations, bedding is really what we need. And our goal actually is to not have to purchase bedding. That's something that the community can come and help us with that. In fact, we do have a couple local Rotary clubs that are already making that commitment this year. So that Amazon wish list, you can go on and do that, and we have a list of items that you could purchase.
Yeah, I think you can expand on sort of the face of poverty. I mean, as you guys know, so my side hustle, I work for a nonprofit. I've been in a lot of homes with families that don't have cleaning supplies. They don't have beds. They're having a hard time paying their rent. You may have two parents working and still can't do it. Maybe you can expand on what you're seeing out there.
So that's what we're really hoping, is that Sleep in Heavenly Peace delivers this great thing. And then our hope is that then people who are in these difficulties know that there's people in this community that care for them, and they'll hear about the higher purpose building, and then maybe they might reach out to us and talk to us more about what their need is. You build that trust, and hopefully that we can engage with them deeper and to strengthen their stability and to help bring that network of the other nonprofits of Saginaw Community Action Agency and the services they provide, and what we're going to try to do with street level case management, 1 week, 1 street, and as we're all working together to bring this strong fabric together. even as we talk about Sleep in Heavenly Peace, the Saginaw chapter wouldn't be open if it wasn't for the Auburn chapter and the robust work that they've done for several years, and even helping to mentor us. And so now there's this great platform, but it's just been waiting because the need is so great. So we're rolling up our sleeves. We don't fully understand what we've gotten ourselves into, of how big the problem is.
Sure.
But we know that we've got a lot of people that are ready to help fight it. We need more people.
Right. So over the weekend in Saginaw, I know there was a prayer walk. Tell us about that, how that sort of, I guess it was guided and led a little bit by a lot of organizations. How did that go? And talk a little bit about the faith component of everything you're doing and how critical that is.
I think it's what's motivating many of us to come in, to be able to get involved, and a chance to be able to help your neighbor and show our love to others. And I know with each of us, that's what is motivating us to get involved, to demonstrate our love, not just talk about our love that we have in Christ for others, but to actually demonstrate it. And so the chance to be able to go out in the neighborhood and to just lay the foundation and to be able to engage and to be able to pray for others is, I think, going to help them to see the sincerity, but it also helps underlay the foundation and the protection, and to guide us in the right decisions in the future.
Right. And part of the goal isn't necessarily always supplying homes and food and clothing and all that. It's also providing a safe environment. If you're cleaning up blight, helping to reduce crime, having families in Saginaw feel a little bit more comfortable about moving in. So how is that going? How do you convince the city founders and the people running things that we want to create safer streets too as part of this?
And I think that's a common theme. A lot of people have forgotten the east side of Saginaw. And it helps that the mission is located there. We see that we're more compelled than maybe some others. But what has been, I think, really great and rewarding about this is to see that people are understanding that we need to do this, and that we need to build relationships, and that there's been this gap. And that's, I think, part of the reason for the downturn in Saginaw is because we've become isolated in this new era of technology and all of our events and all of our busyness and activities, that we've lost getting to know our neighbor and doing things for each other. So I'm hoping that in its most sincere form, Higher Purpose, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, what the mission is doing, all of these organizations coming together,
Right.
it's going to help uplift each other.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question is there a question that maybe I haven't asked? What about Sleep in Heavenly Peace that people don't know about? What is something that I haven't asked you? What is something you need to talk about Sleep in Heavenly Peace that people need to know that's on your plate?
I don't know if we've talked yet about applications,
Okay.
but we are not yet ready to accept applications. There is, I think we did talk a little bit about the accreditation that will happen this weekend, with some higher ups from Sleep in Heavenly Peace coming to check us out, make sure our process is going well.
Sure.
After we go through that, and then after we build a certain amount of beds, then we'll open the application process, and that's all done online, and that will probably be in January. We'll probably have our first, not probably, we will have our first public build
Okay.
in January. So those who are wishing to come out and build with us, keep looking at the website. That will happen very soon, right after the holidays. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
And
rolling along.
And I would just, I guess, piggyback off of kind of what Dan is saying about getting into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about the work that's been done and the financial investment that's been made at the Higher Purpose building, this warehouse. It's this now kind of a state-of-the-art facility. We're really honored and blessed to have this as our home to build beds. It's a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the prayer walk this weekend, and I grew up and I lived in Frankenmuth. You know, it's a 15-minute drive. I can count on one hand how many times in my life I've walked the streets in the east side of Saginaw. I was last Saturday, and it was a beautiful experience. And so we invite people to come out, come to a safe space, build some beds. You know, we can take you across the street and walk some of these blocks. These are your neighbors, and it's important, and it doesn't have to be that scary, and you can make a difference.
Absolutely. Couple of minutes that we have left, I think it's time to make a little bit of a pitch for the needs. The City Rescue Mission, the Good Samaritan Mission. You need money for meals, you need clothing. So talk a little bit about what you really need as we're going into this holiday period. I know you're making a big pitch. We're going to the winter months. So your opportunity to talk about that.
This is always our busiest time of the year.
Right.
But homelessness is going on all through the year. So, 230 people, you think about what it takes to be able to engage with them with meaningful outcomes and to do the life skill classes, 3 meals a day, the hygiene kits, and just clothing and all those things. It's that whole package of what we are calling hope and care. But at the core of it, it's trying to engage with each person, each family unit in a meaningful way so that they don't have to ever experience homelessness again. And on average, we see only about 5% have to ever come back for a second stay with us. That to us is the affirming piece, is that we're having those sometimes difficult conversations, we're building personal relationships, we're helping people to see that they have hope. So many times they're coming through the doors and they've given up because all they've known is rejection and no's, and trying to help them to see there's so much more for their future.
Sure.
And so let's try to achieve that together and restore that hope.
Yeah, a lot of families were hit by this double-digit inflation.
Right.
It has come down, but rent was still high, clothing's high, food was still high, and they're still feeling the effects. It hasn't trickled down fully just yet, right?
Probably the most sobering thing to me is that there's always new faces. Always new faces. 70% have never experienced homelessness before. That to me lets me know that we still have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'll leave it at that. Dan Redford, Christina Licht, good luck with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, the Saginaw chapter. We can go to your website to get the information once the applications are out. Good luck with your test build on Saturday. I know that's going to go well, and we can make a difference in the lives of struggling families and struggling kids that need a bed to sleep on. So I hope you can help them out. There's some of the websites there, and Dan Strito's always appreciate you coming in. Amazing work that you do. I don't know if you ever sleep, but appreciate the work that you do. You're making a difference, and Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving to both of you. And that's our show for tonight, but be sure to join us again on Tuesday, December 10th for the follow-up. We'll focus on energy issues and what you can expect from President Trump when he takes office in January. In the meantime, I hope you will support our Delta Public Media Pledge Drive over the next couple of weeks. We need the help there. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to click that bell icon to stay notified when we upload new content. Videos like this are only possible because of viewers like you. To help support this channel, click on the link in the description below. We'll see you next time.